Okay, so now I'm inside After Effects to animate some bounces. So here I have a tennis ball and here I have the surface. So the first thing I have to do whenever I have a bounce is to break down the components of the bounce and work on each one separately. I will show you how. First, our bounce is happening on the Y position. Let's zero out the rotation first. Okay, so first our bounce is happening on the Y position. And it also might move from left to right, which is the X position. And it might as well be spinning, so it's the rotation. So these are the three different components that can happen in one bounce. So we should work on each one separately. Okay, let's start by animating the bounce on the Y position. Let's say, first I'm gonna create a new keyframe. Let's move 20 frames. Gonna put this keyframe over here. And let's say the tennis ball is gonna fall from this height. So let's say 150. It's gonna fall like this. So I'm gonna select all the keyframes and press F9 for easy ease, and let's go to the graph editor. Okay, so I want the tennis ball to start a little bit like with momentum and then to speed up. So let's make this Bezier handle like this. So it's gonna be like this. It starts slow and then it speed up. Okay, and 20 frames for the timing, I think it's fair. Okay, so now our bounce is gonna take less time. Let's say, so now it hits the ground and now it should bounce back up. So let's say the first, so the falling took 20 frames. So let's say the next bounce is gonna take 15 frames. So 30 and 105, so that's 15 frames. Let's create a keyframe. And now we'll play around with the Bezier handles. The angle over here should be equal to the angle over here. So we can eyeball it, maybe like this, and this as well. Now the big question is how much the height should be for the next bounce. So now here our bounce is happening. Should it be like this? Or should it be less? We have two ways to figure that out. Either we can eyeball it and just follow our intuition, or we can use a reference by creating a new null object and creating new keyframes to have the decay curve for reference. For now, I'm gonna continue the bounce just by eyeballing it, and maybe at the end, if I'm not satisfied with the bouncing ball, I can create a new null to have it as a reference if I want to adjust my bouncing. So let's continue. Now I have second bounce. So the third bounce, it's gonna take less time. So let's say 10 frames. Create a new keyframe. And remember, this angle should be equal to this angle. Okay, so just by eyeballing it, just make sure it's a decay curve and not a straight line. All right, so if you draw a straight line over the tip of each bounce, make sure it's a curve and not a straight line. Okay, so here I have my second bounce. Now the third one, maybe should be around 5 frames. Maybe I can add it a little. Like this. All right, perfect. I think the bounce is good just by eyeballing it without using the decay curve. If you think you should If you are more comfortable using the decay curve, go ahead and use it. For me now, I think I'm satisfied with my result. So you can adjust the curves as you want, as long as you're satisfied with the final result. Okay, so now let's work on the second component of the bounce, and it's the X position. So now the ball has to be outside the frame, and it's gonna bounce and enters the frame, and it's gonna stop at the end. So let's create a new keyframe. Let's move the tennis ball out of the frame, and let's drag it all over here. Maybe it can stop right here. Okay. Okay, so now we can play around with the curve editor. First, let's select the two keyframes and press F9 for easy ease. Now I can go to the graph editor. Okay, so here when it stops, I can make the curve flatter to, maybe I can test it. Let's say it's gonna be like this and see what's gonna happen. No, I think it's a bad option. Let's make the curve flatter to arrive really slow and smooth. Yeah, let's make the beginning maybe like this. It's bad as well. Let's keep it as is and see what's the result. Okay, so now I have my animation. Maybe here it can continue to move a little bit after it stops bouncing. So here it stops bouncing and then it continues a little. Okay, cool. Let's move it out of the frame completely. Okay, and I think I'm satisfied with the curve editor. I don't need to adjust anything. All right, so now I'm satisfied with these two components, the X position and the Y position. And now let's do the rotation, which is the third component of our bounce. So let's create a new keyframe. Let's move it over here and let's spin it a little. Maybe like this. Let's select the keyframes and press F9 for easy ease. Okay, I'm gonna add the spinning. Not too much. Let's see. Okay, I think it's good. It's a trial and error thing. You can try as much as you want until you are satisfied with the results. Maybe a little bit more. Yep, I think this is good.